Hello, I'm Chris Solo, and welcome to the Fabled 42, where we build community through friendship, gaming, and chaos. You're watching Quests and Answers at our new time, and you can find us live every Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific here at twitch.tv/Fabled42. Before we get started today, we're going to dive into our announcements. We have a brand new, amazing sponsor, our very good own friend, Jason Russell, over at Critical Dice. So, I lost it. See, I had a thing, and it's gone. Where'd it go? There it is. So our brand new partnered sponsor, Critical Dice, has a collection of dice along with apparel and pins. You can use the discount code Fabled42 for 20% off of non-subscription items. Go ahead and check that link down below to check out Critical Dice. Also, everything that you see that's 3D printed, all of our streams, is brought to you by Griffin Co. So please take a look at those guys as well. If you want to support the network and the channel and everything that we do here, go ahead and check out our Patreon. We have a lot of exciting things coming up down the pipe. This Sunday at noon? Question mark? I think I said noon. Is
noon. For prom.
That's this Sunday, right? Yeah. I'm
yeah.
So tired. I've been editing all day. So this Sunday at around noon, we will have our prom 3-part episode. It'll be about 9 hours of content. More than welcome to stay for the whole time. This will be a Patreon only. This is a Patreon only event. However, if you are interested in joining this special one-shot series and you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can still buy a ticket. Tickets are $5. All you have to do is click that Ko-Fi link down below, and you can go ahead and join the prom festivities. Our entire prom cast will be in there. We'll also have cast and crew of other shows from Fable 42. We'll all be in the Zoom chat. We'll just be hanging out and watching the show with some breaks in between and all that. So it'll be really fun to kind of hang out and do all the things. I forgot. Mind blank. Let's do some panelist introductions, and we'll dive into today's episode. Mr. Eddie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Eddie. You can catch me on all the various social medias at Discount Bard. I am a regular here on Fable 42 on Wednesday nights in the Realms of Ukador as our local Tabaxi Rogue Eclipse. I'm also on the producer team and do all kinds of stuff.
Thank you.
All right.
Lizzy.
I'm Lizzy. I am also a regular on the Realms of Ukador as Nafako, the life-forged paladin. And for those of you who don't know, a life-forged is a homebrew race cooked up between me and Chris Solo that appears to be sort of an amalgamation of various animals, but only a few people know that they are created by combining live humanoids. You also find me on the Wizards of Ukador on Friday nights when that comes back as Lily, the Enchantment Wizard.
Awesome.
And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter as the Lizzy LD.
Perfect. And he's no longer a secret, special twist, everything else, so I'll stop teasing him. Mr. Ronin Fawks.
Hey, I'm Ronin Fawks. I am an irregular on Realms. And you can find me at Ronin Fawks on Instagram. And on Fridays, I helm the flagship show of the network, Fox Talks, every Friday at 4 Pacific. And that's it. That's all.
Welcome. Well, today we are talking about character depth, but in relation to 2 of our Ukador shows, the Wizards of Ukador, where Eddie is Ebdar, Lizzy is Lily, and Ronin is Thegan. But we also talk about the twists and turns of connecting the 2 storylines together with our Realms episode this past Wednesday, where Ronin is still Thegan and he becomes Voltok. Eddie is Eclipse, and Lizzy is Nafako. So a lot of the questions will wrap around all of those characters and everything ties in. But if any of you have any amazing questions for the panelists on character decisions or their thought process or motivations or why they chose to do this and this with these specific events or just in general on either shows, that's what this panel is here for. So let's talk about the one person that ties both of them in, Thegan. So now, we joked about it offline. I've got like 6 hairs. That's from all these crazy storylines that we've been brewing and things I've been sitting on for 6 months. So how are you feeling now that both twists and turns, some on you as well? how are you feeling that now everything is out in the open, and Ukador's Vecna is sitting before us?
Relieved. It was a lot. It was a lot of planning, a lot of secrecy, some of which obviously, like you alluded to, was kept from me. But all in all, I think it worked out really well. Kind of excited to see, where it goes without me, sort of in the lore of Ukador now. So I think it's sort of beyond me as the player. So kind of excited to watch all that sort of stuff happen. But overall, it was fun, and I'm kind of glad it's over. So he's a dick.
Yes. Yeah, it was I'm also glad it's over. I know we were just joking offline that, like, I don't want to do any more combat or anything serious for a while, like just decompression and festivals and stuff, because again, like, the whole reason why I initially created Wizards was for that reveal. That was supposed to be the build up, because you were going to be this boss that evolved into this new thing because of the Travana's twists and stuff. But yeah, I'm super happy that it's done. I'm happy that we had the twists and turns and the oohs and ahs. I don't think anyone's feelings were hurt, and everything just kind of unfolded. Now we're good. Like, it feels really good. But I'm curious on the other two people in the room from two different perspectives. Like, how did you all feel about the twists and turns from the Wizards' perspective, and then also from the Realms' perspective?
Eddie, do you want to go first?
No, but I'll certainly do so if you would like me to. Sure. So, yeah, boy, it's been a lot of twists and turns back and forth on. It's been fascinating just watching everything unfold between the two shows, and all the little breadcrumbs that were left here and there for the tie-ins for this big reveal that just happened. Definitely had some suspicions for a long time that Thegan's part to play in both worlds was far greater than what was being let on. I did not necessarily make the connection on this particular association until it was a lot closer to go time. But it was definitely, at least for me, a fascinating experience watching the journey. Ebdar definitely had no clue. I'm not gonna...
Yeah. Bless his heart.
Yes, but yeah.
Oh.
Poor innocent Ebdar.
I mean, I wish I could. Well, I mean, I guess I could, but it's in like the Silverthorn house chat. There were like a few times where we would just like talk in character to each other, and like when like Kizad and I were like, Thegan is enemy number 1 now, and Ebdar was just like, Thegan, precious Thegan is a good boy. I don't understand what.
Oh yeah, no. Thegan was Ebdar's best friend. They were pen pals to each other. They chatted, so they were besties.
I said this on Fox Talk, but he's the reason that Thegan chose a pseudonym. So that they do have that connection at least.
Way to go, Eddie.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, or it's Lizzy.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I got read into a lot of the twists that were coming. Not your twist, Ronin, but like enough of like all of Travanis's, and like I know Solas sort of talked about it from his perspective of how like that like finding out the original plan was that like Rook/Travanis was just gonna leave, and like I was gonna get a note which was delivered by a raven, and my first thought was like, she went off with Thegan, and Thegan is like cutting her off from me, and I have to go rescue her. And like, so I was like, Solo, like, I'm fine with this as long as I can rescue Rook. And he's like, he had to explain the whole situation.
Yeah.
And we, came up with our plan that I was okay with. So that it was, we got that like nice last 10-minute scene. But it, from like from the Realms perspective, I know I just started shouting. I called it when you came on screen. It wasn't my first theory of who Voltok was, but once we got through the Moonlander episode and Voltok still hadn't shown up, I was like, okay, I know that Ronin's gonna be Vecna, and I know Solo doesn't make like random characters really important things, so I like messaged him and I'm like, new conspiracy theory, Volt equals.
And I think I tap danced enough to get you a little bit off the trail.
No, you did not at all. No, your immediate comeback was, but Pyriel's presents as a woman, and I'm like, I didn't say Pyriel, I said Voltok in my head, but I was on my phone and I was like, look, I have my reasons. I don't need you to convince me. I'm just putting my stake in the ground so I can say I called it when I happened.
That's fair. Oh, I think because Pyriel and Voltok were the same person. So
yeah, right. I was like, I don't know. I don't know where Pyriel fits in. I just feel strongly that. Well,
she was supposed to just be a red herring. Actually, originally, I don't know. I guess we can go into this a little bit, but originally I was going to solely be Pyriel. That was going to be another pseudonym that he had. That was just going to be whatever. And then we were going to do the sort of more, what's her real name? The person
Shava?
that's in the Frost Maiden. Yeah. We were going to do her route. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She has 3 forms. We were going to do sort of all of that sort of stuff. Obviously, the plans got thrown out the window, so Pyriel became something different. And I said this on Fox Talks too, but Shava is or was Pyriel. She in Wizards claimed to want to do X, Y, and Z, and she did that. She became Pyriel. Thegan just ended up killing her in the meantime.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Did Thegan start the rhyme, or did Pyriel start the rhyme?
In theory, I guess it would have been Thegan who started it. She would have come to him, and for some alliance, we haven't fully fleshed out their relationship, but there would have formed some sort of alliance that she would have come. She was the last person. Again, he did the same thing to hers. He did to you guys. She had to go up the elevator, do the whole 9. She accepted his offer when she got to the top floor, but it didn't end up working out because of her relationship with Rook. So he killed her and continued the rhyme. So he's been there for a while, sort of amassing an army, just sort of laying low and doing what he needs to and finding the correct people. The good buddies coming there again shifted his plans, which we can get into, but that sort of changed his thought process.
Got it. We have a good question in chat from Darren O'Ryan. This is for all of you, so each of you can answer this how you see fit in the order that you wish. What do the words character depth mean to each of you individually, and how do you as a player achieve that?
That's a really good question.
It's a good question.
It is.
I would say the first thing that comes to my mind is, so you have, when you're building a character, you have this sort of superficial, right? The likes and the dislikes. But I think when you get what creates depth is character motivations. And you don't want those to be singular. Thegan's was a little bit, some of the wizards I'm sure were a little bit, just because again, we didn't have a ton of, we created a kind of one-sided characters that became 3-sided. So that's a little different, but what you want is a well-rounded character with a lot of interests and a lot of goals and different motivations to kind of achieve those goals. And that is what creates that depth, because those will end up influencing decisions a lot more than, the guy that likes favorite color is purple or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's those motivations that are going to create that.
Well, yeah, the motivations is what makes your character real. So whether it's a PC, an NPC, or a big bad, you add that depth to the character, which makes people who either interact with that character in the game, or if they're observing from the outside, that makes you care about that character. Victor is a perfect example of this. And it arguably can be, on either side of the coin, there are players that hated him. To the core, hated him. And you learn his full story, and all of a sudden some fans and maybe some players start to sympathize for him, that he was the victim in all of this. And what his goal was just, I know Lizzie is shaking her head. But,
no, I'm just kidding.
But the goal for Victor was to save his beloved, right? To save Jocelyn, who was corrupted by Volrock, who became Riha. That was his goal. And obviously his goal and his hunger for blood and for just vengeance. Yeah, anybody who's obsessed about anything could be Victor, right? So we're all starting to resonate with that. Like, his obsession has become very violent and deadly. And the interesting thing is, like Lizzie and I, we had this conversation as Victor came back again, and they've killed him a bunch of times. And we came up with this kind of fun thing. So like Lizzie written this narrative about catching Victor again. And then my way of tying Victor. So Victor, for those of you who don't know, was trapped by the Lightbringers sometime in the future after Realms 1 again, because he found some other way to weasel his way out. They put him in some sort of vault, and then over time he eventually got out. But he left for Ukador. And he went to this nice little blue marble in the sky, and decided to start over differently, to be a little bit more in the shadows, be a little bit differently. Victor becomes Dracula in Earth. And that is canon in Monster of the Week, and that is canon in Vampire the Masquerade. But the very short note that I had sent the Lightbringers was thank you, essentially. Like apologizing for being a D-bag. When he found out that they saved Jocelyn instead of killing her, he vowed that he would never come back to Ukador again. And like GW sent me a long message afterwards, like, damn it. Like, he wants to be angry at Victor still, but he's like, damn it, Solo. Like, that just little sliver of humanity, you're like, fuck. Like, we hate this guy. We hate him. This pretend person that we hate so much. But all of a sudden you're like, ooh, damn it. But that's depth, right? So you're adding all these real elements, whether it's from you as a person or something to pull on these other characters. And that just stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks. And you keep adding to it, which gives it more and more and more depth, which then we have all these emotional reactions when I bring them back again.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, right, honestly, you two have both covered it really well, but I think it's sort of like making this person complicated, right? Or like having layered emotions and reactions to different things that happen in their world, right? Like, and that's either can come from like constructing memories of things that were important to them, like having these like key foundational like things that happened in their past, which is like a lot of what I put in for Nafago, and I did not do it all for Lily.
Right.
But it's, and like sometimes it's fun to just discover those in the moment too, right? Where it's like have a strong point of view about something can like really both be great for a performance and also help create some of that depth just as you find it.
For sure.
One of the things that I like doing is that I like doing on the fly, like sort of in the character, is one of the ways to do it is create flaws.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's my kid's school because I know they're going to be canceled tomorrow. Anyway, create flaws, but I like to create flaws on the fly, right? So in the moment, like I didn't know that Thegan was not going to like Khalees. But like he started talking in that drunk scene, which is the first time we'd ever talked, and I'm like, Thegan really is not enjoying this conversation, so I hate him. But you know what I mean? So these ideas, I love you, Renee, but these ideas of like what annoys you and stuff is fun to create on the fly, or what sort of character flaws that you have.
Well, because that's real though, because you as a human being, you bump into someone and you're like, all of a sudden I hate the smell of potato chips because that dude stinks.
Yeah,
like,
right.
All of a sudden you change what your little tick is. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, the main thing I could add on top of that, I mean, a lot of it's already been said here, but I mean, anyone who's ever taken like, a character analysis class, acting 101 and stuff like that, objective, super objective, all that business and stuff like that. It's like, what are my, core values as a character, the things that are important to me, the things that I care about and stuff like that, versus what is my goal in this exact moment.
Right.
And it's just kind of how the mix of how those blend together. But yeah, similarly so, certain things that on the surface level might just seem like, well, that's an odd reaction to have that sort of thing, can be built upon, layers of trauma. I mean, case in point, Eclipse's motivations kind of change on a moment by moment basis because there's just certain events that can be kind of triggering to them just because of the various experiences they have been through. But at the same time, sometimes motivations can be pretty simple. I don't like you, you're dying now.
Yeah. And just something to tag on the end of the character depth little snippet that we were just talking about your character's motivations and all these things. One thing, especially in a game where you're with other actors, with your other players, you can't hide your motivations. You can't. It just doesn't work. You have to share it with your party. Case in point, Baranor. No one was paying attention to Baranor. Jordan and I, we've had long conversations about it. Jordan was doing his own things in character, completely ignored Baranor. But I didn't give him any breadcrumbs, right? Bree's character, Ren, was kidnapped. She was my whole purpose in life was to protect her, and I failed, right? Baranor was going down a slippery slope, but no one paid attention to him. and me as a player didn't put those crumbs out there. I'm playing it very hard. I'm being I'm just sitting by the fire smoking my little pipe, right? I didn't say like, oh, you see Baranor like deep in thought. I didn't give anybody anything. And then when all of a sudden we saw that big giant spider, I went in guns blazing because that's my character's motivation. That's my character's depth. But I didn't share it with the party, which then I almost broke the party. That act of me playing 100% to my character almost broke the show and the party because I wasn't thinking that they weren't on the same page as I was, right? I was here and they were way down here. They're like, why is he doing this? This is so confusing. And like they missed the 17 cues up until that point. So my biggest suggestion is for those motivations, and you all do a really good job of this, is like describing that you're doing something a little, emo. Or you're describing like Eclipse looks deep in thought, and then Nafako picks up on it and just, Eclipse, what's wrong, right? Like we all work really well together. I got super tunnel vision, and
it doesn't hurt to have a really empathetic character like Nafako in your group, or like Tipper or somebody like that.
Well,
like
we didn't have that in Venture Middle Earth.
Right? No, so that's what I'm saying. Party composition matters a lot in there.
Well, even beyond that, I mean, sometimes it can just be as simple as just take an interest in another character. I mean, especially like. That's one of the biggest challenges that I have had with Eclipse is that Eclipse is incredibly closed off and does not talk to people. So that makes it really tough when there's other, highly, extroverted and, interactive characters. Like we've got Kiwim, we've got Nafako. I mean, even Kai, every now and then just, gets Eclipse's goat, just to give them a hard time and stuff like that, just to get a rise, but also to get some sort of interaction out of them. Exactly. Wanted smiles and all that. But it's just like, but having that bit of, excuse the pun, cat and mouse, sort of circumstance creates interesting dialogue and creates interesting interactions that can also eventually end up leading to character development. Yeah. Because, who knows? It could be eventually at some point in time, something may come out of it.
And that's kind of the purpose of Owl, right? Your Owl is kind of that thread to be like, you don't want to deal with all these people, whatever, and you can have this one-on-one, more intimate, personal conversation with a familiar, and then it will kind of help direct some of that, which I'm very excited to actually get into that, because we've been at like 1,000 miles an hour the whole time since you got the Owl, where it's like, yep, we're just going for it. But I'm very excited to see. How all this stuff starts to unfold. We did get another really good question from Kalav. Considering Eclipse and Nafako were the two that originally attacked Voltok, do either of them feel there was any way they could have been persuaded to not fight?
That's a hard question to answer, mostly just because of my own just meta knowledge of Thegan and just how I imagine Eclipse would interact with that type of person. I cannot envision a scenario under which someone is going to say, serve me, that Eclipse would have taken that well.
Well, plus the other plot device that you were wielding wouldn't really allow you to do that either.
There's that too.
Yeah. I
had other external factors,
that, right?
But yes. I was definitely getting my sword was definitely talking to me.
I was the devil on your shoulder and the sword was something else.
So for me, absolutely. Like, Nafako never wants to fight. Well, I mean, she did get provoked into wanting to fight in that battle, but like actually in the episode before Ronin showed up, Elida had taken over, and Elida, for those of you who don't know, right, there's like 8 characters in Nafako, including Nafako, and Elida is the necromancer's daughter, and she's right now one of the less cohesive people within this group because she's one of the few people who's actually mourning her father, and she saw Pyriel as somebody who knew her father, and there was maybe a way in. So when she took over, she was like, she could have easily been manipulated into like doing that, but like Pyriel was just not giving any of the right signals. And yeah,
it's funny because you guys were the two that were up there, and like if in a different world or whatever, he would have managed to talk the group into it. there were going to be certain caveats that would have inevitably led to a fight. Giving up the sword, putting down Nafiko's shield,
Right.
all of those things would have been instantaneous,
Well-
and that would have never happened. Like,
I will say the biggest thing was that the moment that Valtok threatened Nafiko, that was game over for Eclipse.
Yeah.
That alone was fighting words right there.
The other thing too is the only reason why the Pyriel ruse was disrupted is because you got blood on that sword. Eclipse.
right.
Which then his radar went like, "What the fuck is that?" I remember that sword. That's what cut my eye out. So like, there's all those things that tie into that. That I have no idea what would have happened. Like Ronin wouldn't even been in there. It would have been me pretending to be Pyriel for a minute before something provoked it. Then who knows? Like, it could have. I'm happy with how it turned out. I'm very happy with how it turned out, and I think it was pretty poetic that you two were the ones that were there. But
I mean, going back to complex character motivations and stuff like that. I mean, contrary to how aggressive Eclipse comes off sometimes, attack is not always their first motivation. But there's definitely certain factors that will push them in that direction, and Nafiko is definitely one of them.
Yeah, and and Valtok wanted nothing. Like, okay, so right out of the gate, he was going to try to kill you, and then he's going to try to separate the sword from you, and then he wanted nothing to do with you. Like, once the sword, I don't know if you noticed, but once the sword popped back in your hand, there was no going around you. Like, it was just like, nope, I'm going to stay over here and keep the damn cat over there. Like,
bad kitty.
Yeah, no, you're over here now. Okay, I'll deal with you later.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the thing is, like, if Thegan was like someone who was able to negotiate and like turn around, like, then you could have talked Nafiko out of it. But right, like, just the way these characters were, it never would have happened. But it's like, this is one of those things where it's like Nafiko is a redemption paladin, and there haven't been, like, she tries every once in a while to like talk to the people she's fighting, right? Like when we had that Merilith that showed up, and the Merilith was just like, I'm having so much fun murdering, and I'm like, well, okay, guess this is not gonna go.
Yeah, but I mean, you talked and you brought back that family that you all murdered.
Yes. Yeah.
That was huge, right? Like,
yeah.
But I mean, it was one of those things that I said even before I think you decide you want to be a redemption paladin. I did say that I was very explicit, like, you guys don't have to always fight. That was one of the things that I had opened up just as something in your mindset, that just because I'm putting you in an encounter doesn't mean you have to fight.
It was very kind of you to bring that up the second time you forced me to kill babies, but okay.
I didn't force you to kill babies. I didn't tell you to jump on that baby's back and start stabbing it to death.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, it was going to happen. Basically, the reason he was Pyriel, the reason he stays in Pyriel's form is because he's Thegan underneath there. So he knows that presenting himself as even an elvish looking woman is going to be better suited for diplomacy than himself. He's still Thegan underneath. So when you cut him, he was like, all right, well, screw this. I'm done with that whole thing. So it was gonna happen. He's still not a people person. So
and there's a lot of people looking for him too. So
apparently there's a whole ship, according to chat.
I mean, but think about it timeline-wise, right? There's 5,000 years between wizards and realms.
Yeah, some of those guys are definitely dead. Okay,
but you probably acquired 1,000 more enemies. Like,
sure,
yeah, like, so you have enemies in every area code.
One of the things that I hope was alluded to that we didn't fully explore, but one of the things was that while he may not have obviously wizard friends and that sort of thing, like, he will have allies. Like the Tomb Trapper was his, and there are other dark, demented things that he can concoct to help him in his mission.
And with the stage 2 beginning and everything else, there's a lot more that will start.
Yeah, he doesn't have any worshippers or anything. There's no hands in the sand yet or any of that crap. So
yeah. There was another good question from Ferrix. They asked, how did the artificer acquire the Raven Sword? It's a great question. I do this all the time, and sometimes people pick it up and sometimes people don't. Just like Rook wearing the necklace of Travanas, and Rook being the simulacrum of Travanas. Travanas, if you guys recall, she was looking for this item. We explicitly said she's looking for something, and everyone's like, what is she looking for? She was looking for that necklace. So I tend to do that often where it's right in front of your face and you don't see it. So Travanis didn't think about looking on her simulacrum that she has this necklace that she needed that was like the source of some power. And coincidentally, that Thegan had given her that and then given Anna the ring and everything else. So as far as the Raven Sword, the way that I envision Travanis, again, I just said 5,000 years have passed. It took Thegan 5,000 years to figure out how to ascend, essentially. He's been beating his head against the wall, missing a hand, missing an eye, for a hot minute. At some point during that time, Travanis decided just to toss a hand over this way on this continent, toss an eye over this continent, and then toss the sword over here. All three items, just like Vecna, is very, very similar. It's essentially mildly reskinned, is the same thing. So the sword is like the sword of... Totally blanked on its name. Kaz?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that is.
Sword of Kaz, which was Vecna's lieutenant or general. Obviously, that's not a thing. This is the sword of someone else. But that sword was what was used to sever his hand and his eye.
Diane
So-
said it's the sword of Cass, which brings
Cass.
up a whole bunch of interesting concepts.
Yes.
There it is. There's the light bulb.
Different character, guys.
Yeah, no, sure, totally
Cass
different.
starts with a C. That's
yeah, I
it.
couldn't connect it at all.
No,
Couldn't
not
figure
at
it
all.
out, no.
Yeah, and you know
Right
what?
there.
Clark Kent wears glasses, so you
Yep.
know.
Totally different person, Eddie. But the point is all three of those items are connected. So the sword is the only thing that can kill Vecna or can kill those two items, and the only way to destroy those items is if you have all those items to destroy the sword. It's connected both ways. I did something very similar with the sword of Jocelyn the White, right? Which is a god-killing weapon, right? It's made for that purpose. It's a sentient weapon. I tend to have it become, soul-bound or whatever. So it doesn't take up an attunement slot, and it gives you all this cool stuff, and it doesn't railroad things, it doesn't direct you, but when you're near the asshole that it wants to kill, it's going to be like, yes, let's kill him. We're not talking about it, Eddie. We're going to kill him. And Eclipse is like, all right. He's like, yeah, you crit out a 19, let's do this. And then boom, we're gonna go attack you. So that was the idea. So the Artificer...
To be fair, I didn't throw the first blow this time.
You did.
It was me, the Redemption Paladin.
But just as a confirmation,
I didn't hit
Castilius is not Kaz. Those two people are not the
Yeah,
same.
totally
I know
different.
Everyone is...
Yep, you heard it here.
Should I tell him? Should I tell him who's in the sword? I should just tell him, shouldn't I? Just
Yeah.
to get... Should I do it? I'll just do it.
Yeah.
So
Get out there. You heard it here first, folks.
it is the Raven sword that possesses the soul of Rookazel.
Also known as Jinx, also known as sister figure to Castiel.
Oh my God!
It
No!
all
It is. It's all connected.
It is.
But no. But seriously though.
Even
so
when you don't want it to be.
the irony of it all is this sword was in possession of the Artificer, who was at the heel of Voltok. This whole time, could have just picked the sword up and probably killed Voltok, but didn't know he had it because it's just sitting there with all his other shit, and because he was so focused on his goal of doing all the things he was doing, he was ignoring the stuff that's right next to him. That was kind of the fun tie into that. On that note,
Just crying forever about Rook. It's fine. Don't worry about me.
Just tears. Just tears.
yeah.
Don't make evil fingers over there, Ronin. I saw that. You mock my...
On that note, we're gonna take a quick 10-minute break. We'll come back. So think about some other questions you want to ask any of the panelists about their characters and what have you, and we'll be back in just a little bit.